If you have a connection with your subject, it creates a more dynamic and powerful image when you're photographing people. Now I can tell you with every fiber of my being, every bit of my heart and soul, this is why I was put here on this planet, is to do this work, to help elevate women and amplify their voices through sharing their stories. The fact that these women have overcome what some of them have overcome is just incredible. I've heard stories and I'm thinking, how are you even still standing? How are you existing with what you've been through? Like,
welcome to Mission Activated, where we bring you the stories of individuals who've awakened to their true purpose and are living a life of passion, impact, and alignment. I'm Aveline Clarke, your host, and I believe that when you're on mission, everything falls into place. Here, we share the journeys of those who've discovered their unique path and embraced their soul's calling. It's not just about making money in life and in business, it's about making a difference, living on purpose, and inspiring yourself and others along the way. Let's get to it. So in this episode, I sat down with the very lovely Brad Walsh. And Brad is not just a podcast host and a coach and a producer. He empowers women. And I found his story fascinating and what brought him to lead a movement of empowering women and holding retreats and having a business that was all around how can women be more empowered in the world. And it's just an enlightening conversation. He's a beautiful man. He holds a space really well, and I can see why he's been so successful at attracting women from all around the world to shine their light and come together in the Empowerography retreats. And he's got a podcast actually in the top 2% globally rated. So he's a great person. I have a lot of respect for Brad, and this is a great conversation. Enjoy. Welcome. Thank you, Brad. It is such an honor, and I'm so excited to have you here on the podcast today.
thank you so much. I am absolutely over the moon, excited and honored to be here. So thank you for bringing me on and allowing me the space to share on your platform and with your audience. I'm so excited to jump in.
Wonderful. You're so welcome. I am super excited. So let's get into the questions. Tell us, whereabouts are you in the world?
I am located in Toronto, Canada. It is winter here and it's chilly. Although today is +8, so about 45, 46 degrees. So, I mean, the sun was shining earlier, so it's nice when the sun shines.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me, Brad, I'd love to know who you serve in the world, the work that you do. So who do you serve and how do you serve them?
Well, there's a few different ways I serve, and I serve women entrepreneurs more so than not. I would say about 95% of my community and audience is entrepreneurial women. But it's also about women who have a story that want to share their story that with the hopes of helping, reaching, and inspiring other women or just one woman. If we can do that, if we can reach just one woman with each of the women who are part of my platform and part of my community's story, that we've done our job. That's what it's about, is being in and of service to each other, to help each other, to support each other. So I do that through the podcast Empowerography, but I also do it through my photography work. I'm also a boudoir photographer. So I help to show women themselves in a light that they don't normally get to see themselves in, it's incredible to see the transformation unfold right before my very eyes on the other side of the lens. And with the podcasting piece, it's wonderful and I compare what I do with my podcast and the women I interview to me being taken along for the journey with them in a car. They're driving the car and I'm the passenger. I get to witness and be part of their story. They're inviting me into their story to share in that journey. And it is an incredible honor for me to be invited into each one of these women's cars, into each one of their spaces, and share in that journey and provide the platform to help them share their story with the hopes of helping, reaching, and inspiring as many women as we possibly can on this journey together.
Wow. I bet the women listening to this are just going, how fascinating. Um,
I
how
get
long
that
have
a lot.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I can see that. How long have you been doing this?
The podcasting, it's 4 years this year. The photography work I've been doing for 7 years. I mean, I've been a photographer for a very long time, but the focus on women's empowerment and the boudoir genre, 7 years. And it's been amazing.
Yeah. Wow. What's been the biggest influence?
Honestly, I would have to say just the opportunity to, again, be in the same space with these women who are doing incredible things and sharing in their knowledge and their wisdom through the stories that they share, and being able to give back to humanity, give back to these women, to support them, and to give that gift. Both, I mean, through the podcast and the photography, I get to, through the photography in particular, I get to give the gift of transformation and witness that. As I said, I compare that to watching a caterpillar transform into a butterfly when they come in the studio to when they're leaving. And they leave with a different air about them. They walk taller, they stand taller, they feel more confident. And to be part of that is a huge gift. And that's what keeps me going. That's what helps influence me. And then, of course, the podcast with the stories I get to witness and be part of. I mean, I have met some of the most incredibly inspiring women I've ever met in my entire life through doing this podcast. And the friendships and the relationships are what the biggest gift is of all of this, because I believe that relationships, connection are the foundation for life, for business, for life, for everything. We need that. We can't do this thing called life alone. We can't do business alone. So to have a support, to have a community around you, I think is integral to life. And that is what influences me, is these women's stories, and that gift that I get back, selfishly or unselfishly, however you want to look at it. That's the gift for sure.
Mm, beautiful. Oh, can't wait to delve more into this, Brad. What do you like doing when you're not doing all this? And I'm sure this doesn't feel like work to you, because
No.
it's such a joy. I can see that just from the look on your face. What do you do in your
Yeah.
spare time? There we go.
I,
Do you have?
I like to walk my dog. I like to read. I like to get out and get air, go for walks. I have a what I call an MMJ practice. It's my movement, meditation, and journal practice. So I love to get into that every day. Taking my dog out, of course, every day, hanging out with friends, and just reading. I love to read and enhance my knowledge through reading. So, I mean, I do, as you said, this doesn't feel like work. It is my purpose. It's my mission. It's my why I'm here on this planet. So it doesn't feel like work at all. I absolutely love that I get to do this. This work sets my soul on fire. I have never had such a burning desire or a fire in my belly like I do with this work that I'm doing. It's absolutely incredible that I get to do this, and I'm grateful to the universe. I'm grateful to all of the women who are part of my community, who have supported me. I'm grateful to my family, my daughters, my wife, everybody. It's an incredible gift that I get to give, and it does not work at all. I could I can remember sitting at my computer editing episodes or whatever, or editing photos, and time flies like it's nothing. Next thing you know, 7, 8 hours have passed, and I'm like, oh man, it's not work. It's a labor of love.
I know why I invited you onto this podcast, Brad. Um, yeah, so lovely to hear someone speak so openly, passionately about how they serve and how they show up in the world. And to me, that's the essence of a six-star leader, someone who is in alignment with their gifts.
Yeah, because there are so many people out there who don't find that purpose or find that passion. And I think that is so sad. We all have the ability to do it. We all have a gift that we're given when we come here. And it's your responsibility to share that gift with the world. It's not for you. The gift has nothing to do with you. It's for everyone else around you. And so when you find that gift and you're able to give that so willingly and so beautifully to help others, it's It's incredible. It's an incredible journey. I feel so lucky and blessed.
Couldn't agree more. That's pretty profound. And I want to just
Thank you.
repeat what you said. Our gift is not for us.
Yeah.
No,
No,
no.
absolutely not.
We're not here for ourselves alone. Vincent van Gogh said that. They're the masters, that the spiritual leaders, the shamans, over time have said one of the problems, I think, of that's said around Western society and culture is, and especially over the last sort of 40, 50 years, is we fell into this pattern of just the ego focusing on the self, and we lost ourselves. And I think Western society did lose themselves in that space. And the problem with that was they became disconnected from the all. We are connected to nature. We are connected to everybody. And we're born with these gifts for everything around us, not for
Mhm.
ourselves. And
No, and you have a responsibility in this life to share it with the world. It's
well,
got nothing to do with you. It's so much bigger than you.
yeah, absolutely. Right. I would love to know how you
Mhm.
got to where you are now. So what's the journey been that brought you to this place today?
The journey has been an interesting one. It's been a long one. Storytelling, I would think, when I look at it, is the common thread through all of it. Photography is my first love, my first passion, and that's where it all started, with photography. And I never wanted to photograph people. I had no interest in photographing people. My thing was architecture and landscapes. And I love to create art and exhibit and sell my art at art shows around Toronto. That was, that's what set my soul on fire. I learned on black and white film. So developing those images in the darkroom that I would create in the camera, seeing the images come to life on the paper as I ran it through the chemical bath, the smells of the darkroom, and it's so magical and beautiful. But the process of seeing an image that I created in the camera come to life on a piece of paper, it is such an incredible thing to witness. It's a gift. It's magic to see that happen right before your very eyes. And again, it's about transformation. That's the other key or thread in there for me too, is transformation. And so when I worked in corporate for 12 and a half years as an audiovisual tech at an accounting firm, and about 3 or 4 years into my journey, I was tasked with the responsibility of doing the corporate headshots. And that's where I fell in love with photographing people. I love having that connection and that one-on-one time with people where I could sit with them as they sat for their portrait. I could learn a bit about who they are and connect with them, because that connection ultimately brings out a person's personality when you're photographing them. If you have a connection with your subject, it creates a more dynamic and powerful image when you're photographing people. And so that's where I fell in love with photographing people. And then about 3 or 4 years following that, I was introduced through a mutual friend to a boudoir photographer who was based in Florida. And I fell in love with her work, the mission, the message behind that genre of photography, with what you can help women accomplish in terms of body acceptance, self-love, self-confidence. And I ended up mentoring with her for 6 months. And when I was done my mentorship, it was just one of those light bulb moments that I knew that's the direction I've got to take my photography business when I make that jump to photography full time. I have two daughters. They are 22 and 24. They're a big part of my why for all of it, for the podcast, for the photography. And a big part of that reason being is both my girls were bullied in elementary school. My youngest was bullied by both boys and girls, verbally and physically. My oldest was bullied by girls verbally. I also was bullied when I was a kid. So there's a relatability factor there. So I had an idea of what they were dealing with and going through. But when I took a look at the whole situation, I think the hardest part was seeing the effects that it had on the girls carry through with them to the different stages of their lives, from elementary school to high school to now. I still see the effects in them. And when I take a step back and look at it through a wider lens, the fact that there are so many hundreds of millions of young girls and women who go through and deal with that on a daily basis and have it affect them, how they see themselves, how they view themselves. They don't love themselves. They don't love their bodies. They don't feel confident in who they are. And I think it's heartbreaking that anyone should go through life feeling that way. And so with the photography piece of it in particular, if I can help my clients to leave the studio feeling better than when they got there, that's what it's about for me. I've had women come into viewing sessions after their shoots and tell me that they can't believe that that's them in the photographs. And there's honestly no bigger or better compliment I could ever be paid as an artist, as a photographer, than to hear those words from a client, to know that I've had that kind of an impact and given back to another human being in that way. Again, it's an incredible gift to be part of that, to witness that transformation. And so in 2019, I started thinking that, and feeling that there wasn't enough of an impact there. I wasn't reaching enough people. I wanted to reach a wider audience. I wanted to have a bigger impact. So I thought, why don't I take what I'm doing with the photography, the values, the mission, the purpose, and transplant that, or turn that into a podcast where I focus the podcast solely on women? At the time, and even now, I don't know of any platforms that is hosted solely by a man and solely highlights women and amplifies their voices through sharing their stories, sharing their message. So I thought, this is a perfect way for me to carve out my niche in the podcasting world. As you know, you have to do something. Your podcast has to be unique to stand out. So I thought, this is it. So I reached out to 7 or 8 friends of mine, women who are photographers and makeup artists, and I explained what my idea was with the platform, what I wanted to do with it, where I wanted to take it. And I asked them if they would help me get it off the ground by letting me interview them. Thankfully, they all agreed. We did the interviews. I created the content. And I think at the time I was publishing an episode every 2 weeks. But also at that same time, I was in my second year full time in the photography business, and the business started to pick up traction. I was getting more bookings and more inquiries. And I thought, I have to shift my focus back to the business. That's why I left my corporate job. So I shelved the podcast, focused on the business. We then, of course, fast forward to March of 2020. We all know how that played out around the world. But I thought, instead of sitting around and complaining like everyone else is doing in the world about what's going on, I'm going to flip the narrative here, and I'm going to take advantage of this gift of time that we've all been given. It was my second light bulb moment. I thought, this is perfect. I can reignite the podcast. I could put that out into the world. We need good in the world right now. So perfect time. So I began reaching out to women on Instagram and explaining what my idea was behind the platform. And the response was just incredible. Women were so happy to hear that a man had created a platform such as this to help elevate women and amplify their voices through sharing their stories, that it turned into this thing where the women I was interviewing were saying, Brad, I've got a friend. Brad, I know someone should be a great guest. And all of these connections started happening for me. And it was just incredible. And I have to say, the connections and the relationships, hands down, have been the best part of all of it. Because again, it goes back to that connection piece and community and helping and supporting one another. And so now I can tell you, with every fiber of my being, every bit of my heart and soul, this is my purpose. This is why I was put here on this planet, is to do this work, to help elevate women and amplify their voices through sharing their stories. And, you know, my grandmother and my mother, they are the foundation for all of it. They're the biggest piece. I wouldn't be the man I am today without those two women. They raised me. And when I look back, the fact that my mom, I mean, she left my biological father when I was 10. He was running around on her having an affair. And back in those days, of course, the women were the ones who stayed home to raise the kids, while the husband was the one working, making the money. So looking back on that as an adult male, the fact that she had the support from her mother, my grandmother, the strength, the courage, the resilience to stand up and say, no more, I'm not taking this. I don't have to take this. After 15 years of marriage, and she said, I'm leaving. I'm taking my boys and we're leaving. And we left with nothing but the clothes on our back. We moved into a 1-bedroom apartment. My mom slept on a couch. My brother and I shared a bedroom. And she had to get a job after being out of work for 10 years. And when she was at work, my grandmother would step in and help raise us. So for me, those two women are everything. They're my heart, my soul. I wouldn't be who I am today without them. They helped shape me with all that they did for me, all that they sacrificed. Those two women are the foundation. And then, of course, my wife and my daughters, these 5 women, they are why I do what I do. It's my way of saying thank you and giving back to women because of what these 5 women have brought to my life. And that's how I ended up here.
I'm so grateful for all of them. And I think I can speak for other women. Like you've said, you've heard it many times. It's rare, very rare to find a man, hosting such a business, a podcast, and doing this work for women. But there's also this thing that, and I'm just going to be really blunt. There aren't many women, there aren't many moments in my life where a man has truly seen me.
Yeah, I
And
hear that.
you probably hear that, right? And it's a very magical, special moment for a woman to be heard and seen and understood, just even if it's just for a really short period of time, just a snapshot of, it could be their sacrifice, their gift, the work they do. You know, the picture could be the struggle or the suffering that they're in at the
Hmm.
moment. And that's a very important thing, I think, for a woman to experience, to
Hmm.
feel that she can keep going.
For sure. I mean, really, when you think about it, isn't that what every human being wants, though, is to be
Yeah.
seen, to be heard, that's a basic human need. And if we can do that for people, why wouldn't we? It's a simple concept. It really is, and it doesn't cost you anything to do it. It doesn't take much effort, but to let someone know that they're heard, and to see someone, let them know that you see them. And although, I mean, a lot of people say they're good listeners when they get into conversations, and a lot of the time that's not the case. People, I find, listen to respond. They don't listen to actually hear the other side of things. And that's something I think we all can work on, is that listening skill. I did a survey in a group once, and I asked people to share with me what made them a good listener. Do they think they're a good listener? There was a series of questions, and I would say about 90% of the people said, yeah, I'm a good listener. I, I don't buy it.
If you're loving this conversation and want to dive deeper into purposeful work, then it's time to thank the 6-Star Leaders community for making this episode possible. The 6-Star Leaders are a group of purpose-driven business owners committed to doing business differently by embracing their unique genius and skills to make a real impact. It's a space for learning, growth, and truly becoming empowered in everything that you do. If you're ready to discover your own 6th star, go to bit.ly/6-star community-intro and book a chat to learn more. We look forward to seeing you. So tell me, Brad, was there a moment that you figured it out? Like, when was that moment? Because you've said a number of times, this is what I'm here to do. This is why I've been put on this planet. And you're so emphatically clear about that, which is just so beautiful. When was the moment that you first realized, this is what I'm here to do?
Oh, um, geez, I think it started in my photography journey, actually. I think it just strengthened as I got into the podcast. Um, but I think the photography, where I could see the effects it was having on my clients, there wasn't any one defining moment or one particular shoot where it just hit me, but I think it was a combination of all of them. And I just knew that this is the work I need to do. This is the space I need to continue in. And then, of course, when COVID hit and I reignited the podcast, I mean, I had started the podcast the previous year in 2019, and I think I'd recorded 8 episodes. And I mean, I enjoyed doing it, but there wasn't a moment where I said, yes, I'm going to this is what I really want to do, because I was still in my photography journey. And now, where I'm at now, the photography has kind of fallen away. I've just reignited my love for photography late last year. There was a point where I hadn't picked up my camera in over 2 years, and because I was focused on podcast and growing the platform and the community. So, um, I think by the time I published episode 100, that's when it really hit me. It's like, okay, this is going somewhere. Like, it's picking up traction. There's a lot more interest. And where I got to a point where I didn't have to go searching for guests anymore. It was recommendations through people in the community and who were part of the platform already. So I think it was around episode 100 where it really hit me. It's like, okay, this is where I need to be. This is my greatness zone, my lane, whatever you want to call it, that's when I knew it's like, yes, okay, we're going to keep going with this and we're going to keep pushing it. This is needed in the world. And then, of course, the conference that we put on every year, that cemented it even further. We host a virtual online women's empowerment conference on March 8th every year to celebrate International Women's Day. So once I had buy-in from people who actually wanted to speak at the conference, and people were actually buying tickets to attend and hear what this was all about, what the women were saying, that really cemented it for me. So that was that. I'd say that was probably, if I could say there was one defining moment, that was probably it. And it's been
Beautiful.
incredible ever since. Where this year will be the fourth year of the conference, and it's incredible.
Wow. So that's coming up in like 2-3 weeks.
Yeah,
That's really
yeah.
close.
It is. It's yeah, I'm really proud. We're really proud of how far it's come, and to be celebrating the fourth year of it is pretty powerful. And this year the focus is going to be, we change the theme every year. This year the theme is focused on advocacy, awareness, and action, because some of the women that I've met over the previous year that I've been introduced to and come in contact with, had on the podcast, a lot of them are doing a lot of advocacy work. And I thought, we need to shine a light on the women who are doing these amazing things. But not only that, we need to shine a light on these conversations. We need to start having these conversations, because if we don't start talking about these things, the difficult things, the hard topics, the hard conversations, nothing's going to change.
Mm.
Conversation is the
Yeah.
catalyst for change. We need to start talking about it. When we talk about it, it shines a light on it. It can't live in the
Cool.
darkness. Once you shine a light on it, that's it. It's out there. So that was a lot of the reasoning behind deciding to focus the theme of the conference on that this year. So we've got a panel that's focused on breast cancer awareness, domestic violence, human and sex trafficking, mental health, and self-love and empowerment.
Wow. 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 And can anyone attend the conference?
Yes. Yep. Yep.
And how can the people get tickets?
Yeah, there's a link set up on my website,
Mhm.
empowerographypodcast.com. You can just go there, and under the events tab, you'll find it, and it'll take you through it. It'll show you the itinerary for the day. It's a one-day event, 9:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tickets are $25 Canadian, 18 for our friends south of the border, here in Canada anyways. Yeah, it's an all-day event, and we finish the day off with what we call a virtual happy hour, where we bring everyone. It's streamed live from Zoom into a private Facebook group for ticket holders, and we bring everyone at the end of the day from the Facebook group into the Zoom lobby to network with each other. And so we started off in the lobby, and then we break the women off into different groups so that they can network and connect for 8 to 10 minutes, bring them back into the lobby, put them back into another breakout room. It's just that we found it's a great way to end the day with that connection of everybody. The audience gets to connect with the speakers get to connect with the audience. It's just a wonderful way to end the day.
That sounds so wonderful. I'm going to definitely check it out. And
Awesome.
yeah, do you have recordings, or what do you do with the?
Yes, yeah, the recording stays in the group. So obviously, I mean, 9 hours is a lot of time to spend. So we understand that. And so if you can pop in and out throughout the course of the day, and um, it gets recorded, it stays there, and you can catch up with it later, like the next day or next week. It lives in the Facebook group. We never remove it. So you always have access. Once you've bought a ticket, you always have access to the recording.
What a fabulous thing. It's funny. I never heard of it before, and of course, I was introduced to you. Was it back in September, October last year?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just so exciting to hear and see. I mean, I've spoken to so many people through different channels or avenues. This
Hmm.
podcast, another podcast I've hosted, and spoken to a lot of women,
Hmm.
and heard a lot of stories of adversity. That was the other podcast that I've been a host of, and done about 80 conversations in that one. So, with your podcast, are these particular stories, or are they anything? Are the women that are coming to share their stories? Is it adversity? Is it just the journey? Or
It's a bit of everything, actually. It is the journey. And it is the adversity that they've overcome. There is some bit of adversity that they've all had to overcome, and the strength and the resilience that they've shown to overcome those. That's the common thread through all the conversations. I've just published my 555th episode on Monday. Yeah. A lot of conversations, and the stories never cease to amaze me. They're all so different, yet so inspiring and so powerful and so moving. The fact that these women have overcome what some of them have overcome is just incredible. I've heard stories and I'm thinking, how are you even still standing? How are you existing with what you've been through? Like, but they've all come through it and they've all come out the other side. And that's not to say that they've come out the other side unscathed. Of course they haven't. And they all realize there's still work to do because we're constantly working on ourselves. We are a work in progress because we're constantly evolving and changing and shifting as human beings. So I think that's the common thread, is that all of these interviews, they realize that there's still a lot more work to keep doing. Even though they've come out the other side, they've taken the lessons from it. They've taken the silver lining out of those situations, as horrific and tragic as some of them have been. And they've used that lesson to strengthen themselves and to keep going and to keep moving forward, because they know that there's no other choice. You have to. But they've taken the lesson from it and learned, and now sharing their experiences so that hopefully they can inspire other women. And hopefully there's women out there listening that may be going through a similar thing, but they can learn from the wisdom of each of these guests that they have shared on the podcast.
Brad, it takes a lot to be a host and create that container for someone to share a story of adversity.
Mm-hmm.
I know that from experience. And you've now done these, like you just said, over 500
Yeah.
episodes, right? And that's an incredible number of recordings.
Mm-hmm.
I have this image of the container you create as like this bubble, this little glass bubble around the outside. And when you were starting out, it was probably like just really small. And as you've gone along, that bubble has stretched, right? As the conversations have continued and grown and more stories have come out, and you've gotten more practiced at hosting these and creating the space for these women and their stories. When you started out, did you have any idea of what the journey would be like, and who you would become in that journey as a result?
No, not a clue. I mean, when I first started out, I had the audiovisual background, so I knew all about audio production and video production, all the things. I had no clue how to interview people, none whatsoever. I started out with a headset with a microphone attached that I took from my job, my full-time job, and I was using a free Zoom account and my MacBook, and that was it. I just jumped in. I thought, I'm just going to do this. I'll just try it. How hard can it be? I bet if I went back now and listened to those first 8 to 20 interviews, I would probably cringe and think, "Oh my gosh, how could I have thought that this was this was good?" But it's all part of the process of growing and learning, and it's been an amazing journey. And no, I had no idea that it would turn into what it's turned into. And 555 episodes later, I'm just grateful that the women that I'm interviewing, that they still want to be part of the community, that more women are coming into the community and want to be interviewed and want to be part of the platform and want to share their stories. Because without all of the women who are part of the community, who are part of the platform, there is no empowerography. This is why I say it is so much bigger than me. It's got nothing to do with me. Even this, it has nothing to do with me. It's not about me. I'm here to create a container, as you said, an experience for these women to share their stories. It's got nothing to do with me. I'm here to shine a light on them and share their stories so that, again, we can help reach and inspire as many women as we possibly can that are listening to the podcast and benefit them. That's what it's about.
Mm. Did you have that insight when you started out, or did that come over
No,
time?
That came over time. Absolutely. And I think that, as you said, holding space and creating a container is a gift. And it's funny because I've had people tell me that, you know, like what you do, Brad, that container you create, the holding space that you do, that is your gift. And the first time I heard someone say that to me, I thought, I don't see it that way. It's just who I am. It's just part of who I am and part of what I do. And they said, that's exactly why, because you don't even realize it. That's your gift. And so that sticks with me now when I hear that, when I get asked about that, or when I think about that, I guess it is a gift and I should embrace it.
It's funny. That was going to be one of my next questions, which is, what is your superpower? What is what is that genius thing that you do? And you've just answered that, unless you want to add
Yeah,
to it. But it's
no, I think that pretty much sums it up in the ability to storytell through the podcast, through my photography, because photography is also an art form of storytelling. So I think that's my gift, and being able to connect people. I love to connect people who I think would be able to create something amazing together. I love being able to do that. So those are my gifts, I believe.
yeah, wonderful. Tell me about the women in the community. Are they coming in together just to be friends? Do they do business together, or are they all walks of life, ages?
Yeah, all walks of life. There's 20 somethings to 70 somethings. Some come in just for friendship, some come in for business connection. But when I get to see some of these women connect with each other as a result of the platform, then go on to maybe start a business together or start something else together, something entrepreneurial, that, that, that feeling that I played a tiny, tiny little part in that is such an incredible gift. That sets my soul on fire. I just love that I'm able to help facilitate that and play that tiny little part in that connection. What a gift that is for me to witness that, to see that. It's amazing. And to be able to give that to someone else or to multiple people. It's a wonderful gift. I love it. It's so exciting for me.
What's been the most surprising thing that you've experienced along this journey that you never would have expected?
Hmm. The most surprising. I think my evolution, my transformation, being in a space with all of these incredibly inspiring women, how they've helped me transform and grow as a man, as a human being, and learning from that and bettering myself and growing and expanding. That would be the biggest thing. I never saw that coming. Never in a million years did I ever. I didn't think I'd end up where I am. I had no clue. It's been an incredibly beautiful surprise and gift
Mm,
that I'm so grateful for.
mm. You're creative, and you're a humanistic creative as well, because the creativity you produce is all about others. From what you've shared in the story, you've continually evolved, as we do as humans. How do you see the future looking with your gifts and what you're creating? Have you got plans? Do you have an insight of the next version of Empowerography or Brad Walsh?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think those two are synonymous. So I think that, and where I want to take it, what I want to see is a global initiative. I want this to go global. I mean, there are members of the community who are all over the world, but I see this turning into a movement that changes the world, shifts the perspectives of the world, shifts the way we approach life, the way we approach people. I want I want to turn this into a conference that travels around the world and gives the gift of having these women share their stories. I want chapters of Empowerography set up all over the world and women running those chapters, giving their gifts and sharing their gifts with other women, helping to pull them out of whatever it is they're going through. That's where I see this going. That I want millions of women involved, and I'm not stopping until we get there. We will get there. I have no doubt. I want to be on stages sharing this message and helping provide a stage for others to share. That's all part and parcel of it. That's where I want to take it.
What's if you were to sum up the message that it's like, extracting the juice of the last 5 years of this, and you were to sum it up in one sentence, and it's a sentence that you would deliver on a stage or, to people to sum up what it is or the reason for being, what is that?
We are all here to empower, elevate, and educate. That's why we're here. We're here to lift each other. We're here to support each other and celebrate each other. We need to step into that because that will help shift society. It will shift the narrative of society, and we need to do that together as a collective. We need to raise the vibration of the collective, and we can only do that when we come together. We need to, I think, remove the masculine versus feminine, this constant battle, this constant warring, and come together as human beings. And only then, when we come together as human beings, will we be able to raise the vibration of the collective and make shifts that need to happen in the world. So that's what I would say.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
In the future, will you include men in these conferences?
Yes, 100%. I do want to go that route eventually, because I think that there's a lot of men out there that need a lot of help, and I think that I can provide that help to a certain extent. So yes, I would love to bring men into the space eventually. I think there's still some growth that needs to happen with it as it is right now, but yeah, definitely that is on the agenda for sure.
Good to hear. I mean, the masculine feminine debate divide issue, it has been around for a long time. Our society has gone through different waves of changing and shifting, and it's interesting hearing my own son's views of this, and they're 13, they're twins, and one of them came out the other day talking about what feminism is. And this is really interesting to hear how they've been influenced through media, social media, school. And it's like, wow, I've got a bit of work to do here. Because this is where it starts, when their minds are so young, and to create the sense and the belief and the understanding that we're all equal and we're part of the whole, and there's a balance and we each have a part to play, and one is not better than the other, and we need each other.
You're right. Absolutely. It cannot happen without us coming together. And you're right. We need to start educating our children from a young age about that, and that we cannot get by without each other. We need both the male, the masculine, and the feminine in order to create this space for the world, in order to improve things in the world and get stuff done. We're not going to get it done if we don't come together. And that's where we need to come together and realize that mission and that message, that we need to do this together in unison as a collective.
Couldn't agree more. I'm fascinated to know about the impact your work has had on your family. You've got a wife and two daughters. How did they respond when you started the podcast back in 2019, first of all, and then picked it up again in March 2020?
At first it was shock, I think. Like, why are you doing this? But once they saw the common thread and the evolution from the photography piece of it into the podcast, very proud and happy. And it's modeling behavior for my daughters, that this is what a man should be. We were very involved in sharing and letting the girls know that, this, you have to work together, and you also don't have to take crap from anyone, whether they're man or woman. It doesn't matter. First and foremost, it starts here with you. This is the foundation for all of it. This is where you have to start, is here. And then it just emanates and ripples out from there. So pride, happiness, eventually it got there.
How do you think it's influenced them? I mean, your eldest is 24, and I know I have a 24-year-old daughter as well. And I know at that age, she's gone through that period of, detachment from her parents, gone on that individualistic finding oneself, developing one's own values. And yeah, she's at a lovely age and she's expressing her independence, her maturity is there. And there's a reflection definitely of me and her upbringing, but she's certainly herself.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, are you seeing this reflection in your daughters of what you've done, or is it still are they still in that space where they're
I think
finding
it's
themselves?
Yeah, they're both still in that space where they're finding themselves. So I don't think it's set in just yet.
Mm,
I think that'll take another couple of years before that really
yeah,
hits home and sets in.
yeah. It'll be so fascinating to see
Mm.
what that looks
Yeah, well,
like.
for sure.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see that actually.
Mm,
I'm very curious and interested to see
mm,
what that looks like a couple of years down the road.
for sure. Yeah, in the
Yeah.
green room, you spilled the beans on a little project that you've got going on. Would you like to share that with me now, live on air?
Which one was
Something you
that? I'm
were
trying
you
to
were
remember.
practicing for, applying for.
Oh, yes. Oh, jeez. I've got so many things in my head. As a creative, there's so many ideas floating around. So it's like, which one was that? Yeah. So I've been working on my TEDx application to get a TEDx talk. And so, that's been a journey. It's been frustrating at times, but it's something that I put out to the universe last year that I said, this is one thing that I will get accomplished in 2024. I didn't expect it to happen this early in the year, but working towards that. And it's a journey. It's a process for sure, but I'm really excited because I think the message in there needs to be shared. And it's all, of course, tied in with the platform and what the platform is all about. So I think the timing is perfect. I think it's needed now more than ever. And I'm just excited to get this done. And I know that this will happen. It's going to happen this year. That's it. This is going to be the talk. This one that I'm applying for, I'm going to get it.
Yeah, that's great. I'm 100% behind you, Brad, and I'm sure
Thank
everyone
you.
else in the community is as well. And
Thank you.
what's your goal for the TEDx talk? What would you like to achieve with that, like from an impact perspective?
That more men get on board with supporting women and becoming allies and stepping into that space and realizing that we can stand shoulder to shoulder with women and support them and see, as we said earlier, being seen, being heard, all of those things. I want them to take away that it is possible and that if we don't do that, things aren't going to change. It's all part of the change. And it's how we are going to get things accomplished in the world is coming together and letting women know that we see them, we hear them, we understand them, but also that we're allies and we stand beside you. And that's how we're going to shift things. So that's what I want is for men to walk away thinking about this and knowing that it is possible and that we all can improve. We all can do better. And it's our duty to do that. It's our job to do that, to do better as human beings, because that will create a shift in the world.
Do you feel that part of the impact and part of that, um, I guess that message is you personally embodying that that male who stands beside women and demonstrates to other men how it's done?
Yeah, leading by example for sure. That's how we're going to do it. So that's what my hope is that other men see it and they also embody that and share that with the women in their lives. And then it ripples out so that more men get involved. And, we all need to do our work, both men and women. But if more women, or sorry, more men stepped into the space, that's what my hope is that they see me leading by example and they too will follow and do the same.
For the people that are listening to this episode, let's say for the women, and they're listening to this and they're like, "Oh, this is you're speaking my language. I get this. It's exciting. And I love the future vision. I've got a partner or a husband, or, that's not really standing side to side. There's a lot of power struggle going on, or there's, you know,
Hmm.
what would you say to her?
Be patient. Um, talk about it. You have to have the conversations. You have to have those difficult conversations. You have to talk about these things because, as I said before, if we don't talk about them, nothing's going to change. So speak about it. Speak. Don't hold your feelings in. Let them out. Share them so that they also know how you're feeling, because nobody's a mind reader. We have to share our feelings in order to let people in so that they know what they need to do to improve, to get better, to shift, to help shift and make those changes. So conversation, you have to. It's the catalyst. Like I said, it's the catalyst for change.
Mm. And for the men that are listening to this episode who got to this point of listening, well done, and who might be thinking, do I need to change? Oh, actually, well, I thought that I was standing side by side with my partner or my colleagues, my female colleagues and female partner. Maybe I'm not. Huh. What do I need to, what do I need to look at? What do I need to ask myself? What would you say
Look
to
within,
him?
look within, reflect, think about, examine your actions, pay attention to what you're doing. Pay attention when you're having conversation. How are you speaking? What are you saying when you're conversing with other men and women? How are you interacting with people? Pay attention and examine your behaviors. That's where it
Mm.
starts.
Mm.
And then speaking, because of course, men, it starts from when we're boys, this conditioning that we're taught growing up that it's not okay to share your feelings. Boys don't cry. Boys aren't emotive. Boys don't show emotion. Bury it, tamp it down. Don't let it. No, it's the exact opposite. It's okay to let those feelings, it's okay to talk about them. So find that space where you feel comfortable doing that and start there.
Mm. Brilliant. So wonderful to speak to you, Brad, and hear where you're at in this really massively important journey and seeing what's on the horizon and your vision for the future, which is kind of big, really.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I want to impact as many people's lives as I can through this work, and you can't do that if you're thinking small.
No, your impact layer is global. It's
Yes, absolutely.
yeah.
1000%. And we'll get there. I have no doubt in my mind.
What's going to be? Have you thought about this? That what creating the picture in your mind. So you fast forward, put yourself at the end of your career, and you look back. You go, "What's the vision or the picture to represent that I've achieved it?" So what do you need to see, hear, or have created?
I think it's a world where we can support each other and come together as human beings and rid this world of the masculine versus feminine combativeness, warring, where women are treated equally. Women get equal pay for doing the same job as their male counterparts. These types of things. There's equal roles in the family dynamic. There's equal roles in the friendships, in the relationships, all of these things. Equality for everybody.
Mm,
That's what I want. That's how I'll know that
mm,
this mission has been a contributing factor to that.
mm.
When we achieve that,
It's an exciting and a beautiful world that we have to look forward to. And
absolutely.
I'm so excited for you, very grateful for you as well, Brad. But I'm grateful to have met you
Thank you.
and have had to have you on the podcast and hear the journey and hear the joy in your voice as you speak about this. And this impacts everybody, absolutely everybody.
Mhm.
It's a very important message, very important mission.
Thank you. I appreciate you, and I'm grateful to have been connected to you and to meet you and to be here with you to share this journey with your audience on your platform. And I appreciate the opportunity to do so. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. And
Mm.
I'm so grateful. So thank you for that opportunity. And thank you for allowing me the space to share my vision and my journey.
Oh, you're so welcome. Brad, how can people get in touch and get connected?
Um, Probably the best way is through my website, empowerographypodcast.com, or email empowerographypodcast@gmail.com, and then my Instagram platform @empowerographypodcast.
Brilliant.
Those are the three best ways.
Best ways. We'll have all those links will
Yeah.
be below here in the show notes. As we come to a close, Brad, I would love to hear from you. I like to ask the guests this, is there something, a little tidbit or a piece of advice or something you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Don't let anyone tell you that you can't do anything. Anything is possible in this world. We are at a point in this world where we have so much at our fingertips, and we can accomplish anything if we set our mind to it and we work hard. So don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it, because you are capable and infinite. Go after what you want.
Ah, wow. I felt that one deep in the heart. Thank you, Brad. You are an absolute gem. I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Mission Activated. If today's conversation resonated with you, please don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. Remember, your mission matters. When you live on purpose, not only do you transform your own life, but you inspire others to do the same. Until next time, stay aligned, keep activated. I'll see you then.